Welcome to the Hot Death Horror Podcast. This week, you sick bastards. I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down with the writer director from the Outwaters, the upcoming Tinsman Road. Really excited to have him on the podcast. Really stoked when he said he would do it, Mr. Robbie Banfitch. Welcome, sir.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit down and be on my little podcast here. We'll just kind of get right into the big one, The Outwaters. This film for me, I didn't know what to expect going in. I went in blind, completely blind. It had the theatrical release, and then it was like on Screambox. And I said, well, I'm gonna sign up for Screambox to watch it because everybody was talking about it. And me being a huge found footage fan, also trying to kind of step into the found footage filmmaking world myself. I watched it, and 100% honesty, I watched it 2 times in a row the first time because the first run through, I didn't know what I watched. It was so interesting to me, your approach to how you film that. Would you mind giving us a little bit of insight as to what inspired that?
I tried to keep it realistic in terms of like what might be seen if someone was actually running through the darkness with the camera, for example.
Uh-huh.
But like in a lot of not all of them, but in a lot of found footage movies I see, they'll be running with the camera, but they'll be like panning as they're running, and it just feels kind of contrived. So, for stuff like that, I would just actually run through the dark and get what I got. As an example of that's probably one of the reasons it feels like you don't know what you just watched, because you're not necessarily supposed to know what you just watched as you're watching it.
Okay. Yeah.
And the other thing was the first half I wanted it to be a little what actually might be filmed by the kind of person who just takes their camera around and films little things. So
Yeah.
the mundanity of like everyday life.
And I appreciated that. I really did. I know that, the film gets a lot of mixed reviews. There seems to kind of be no real in between for it. It's like,
There's an in between.
is there? Okay. From everything I read, it's like you love it. You're on my side of the fence where you love it, or people are like, "Oh my god, I didn't understand a thing," and blah blah. So
Well, it might seem that way because the people that hate it are really angry. Like a lot of like there's a real anger on, so it might seem a little bit more, but there's everything in between. There's people who like some aspects and dislike others. It runs the gamut. But it definitely
right,
has people that it is definitely a film that has people that really love it and people that really hate it and everything in between. Whereas, some movies are more in the middle. It's like, kind of liked it, kind of, yeah, it was okay. So
right.
yeah.
Okay. And with this being like your first huge big release, how do you respond to that? Some of the people that just want to trash it, obviously, what movie you made. To me, my opinion, the genius that went into putting something like that on film, because you don't see a lot of that in found footage. You really don't. There's a lot of found footage out there that's just kind of a replay of the last, running around with a shaky camera and screaming. How do you respond to a lot of the feedback that you've gotten on it?
I mean, I like to read everything. I want to know what people think, so far at least. The criticisms that I see, for the most part, are criticisms I saw all the way through making it, so they don't really bother me because I already knew that they were coming and disagree with a lot of not opinions, because you can't but what the thing I'll just say, the thing that bothers me is when someone states something as a fact and it's just not true. That's the kind of thing that makes me want to reply, but I usually just don't, because whatever.
Right.
I put something out into the world so people can say whatever they want about it. But the thing that does personally annoy the fuck out of me is when someone just like states something as fact and it's just not true. That's
Right.
all.
I feel that, man. I feel that because at the end of the day, you're the one that wrote the movie. Like you're the one that made this thing. You know what's fact and what's not. And I found myself getting involved in a couple of those conversations myself, specifically with your movie too, where people are like, no, that's not what happened. This is what's happening, and that's what's happening. And it's like,
Well, I think the difference is like the difference between saying he obviously wanted to accomplish this, and it seems like he wanted to like just the difference between just like language, like being
mhm,
accurate with your language and mindful of what you're saying, like that kind of stuff.
right.
Does that make sense?
It does. It makes total
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So, and I'm glad you cleared that up for for a lot of folks because it it's a mind fuck, man. Like it really is. That movie, I've watched it. I watched it a total of 4 times. Like I said, I watched it 2 in a row when it was first released on Screambox, and then I watched it with a buddy of mine, and then I just got her wild hair up my butt and watched it again recently just to kind of to see if I could pick up anything new out of it. And I think every time I watch it, I see something that I might have missed before.
Yeah.
So great job there as well, man. It was a game changer in the found footage genre, which I think the genre needs. It really does. It needs some refreshing. So it's nice to see that you put something out there that's doing that, and you got a theatrical release too, man. Like that's badass. I'm struggling with that myself, trying to figure out how to make all that happen, and I'm a little envious of how you got that to happen. You've been doing it a lot longer than me, so obviously you've earned those stripes. But I think it's really cool that you have that going for you.
Thank you. Yeah, like when it came out though, it wasn't hard to appreciate it, but I didn't. I was just in like work mode, so I'm like worried about the projection and the sound, and there's like very little time mentally or space where I found mentally to be like, oh my god, my movie's like in a theater. You know what I mean? It's more like, oh my god, is the sound gonna be too low or too that kind of shit. I
Yeah.
called a lot of movie theaters preemptively that I knew were going to be showing it
It,
to let them know that they might need to take the sound down a slight notch.
okay. Spoiler alert, especially at around 55 minutes. Um, I didn't know that. The first time I watched it, I had the sound cranked, and yeah, right when shit kind of starts to hit the fan, I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" So I, I need to learn to be more mindful of that as well, which kind of leads into my next question. What advice could you give, like a brand new filmmaker that's okay? I've got this thing ready to go. I'm going to start filming, and I hope to get it on whatever streaming service. What advice would you give somebody that's thinking about making a found footage?
I have always wanted to make one, but I did not make one until I had an idea that I thought was new, or like there was something about it that was new to me. I also would never make a found footage movie where there was not an obvious justification for the camera to still be going. Now, of course, some people will watch this and I've seen like they don't get that part of it, but it's pretty clear. Like I have a head wound, I'm out of it. I don't know I'm myself or filming half the time. So for me, that was kind of something new that I had not seen.
Mm-hmm.
It was an interesting way to justify, that this person would be filming on and off. And then there's other elements that are implied. But if you're gonna make out a found footage movie, I would definitely make sure there's an organic reason why they're still filming when crazy shit goes down if it's a horror found footage.
Okay.
And I would try to make sure that like your idea is something that at least like you haven't seen before, or there's some aspect to it that you haven't seen before, because like any other kind of movie, there's a lot of the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I definitely will take that to heart when I get working on my next project.
And I guess there's a great book, 8 Days in the Woods by Matt Blasey. It's about the making of the Blair Witch Project from beginning to end to the advertising. So I would read that. It's a great I didn't read it until after I made mine, but I'm like, oh, this would have been great to read before I made mine.
Okay. 8 Days in the Woods.
Yes.
Okay.
And then if you like the Blair Witch Project, it's also just a great book to read. It's so like interesting to learn about all the aspects of the making of that.
Okay. I love the Blair Witch Project. It was not not my first, not my introduction into found footage. I was a little bit younger when I saw it was Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County. That was my introduction into found footage. But Blair Witch was right there in the beginning for me. So yeah,
Is
who
Incident
doesn't love
in
Blair Witch?
Lake County like the remake of like the redo of
The McPherson tape.
Yeah, it is. So I've
Yep.
only seen the McPherson tapes, and I can't figure out how to find Incident at Lake County.
So that one is actually on YouTube.
Oh, all right, that's why. Because I'm like a
Yeah.
snob with DVD. I want a DVD and a Blu-ray.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if there's any physical media out there for that one, because that was like one of those special broadcast things.
Do you prefer it to the McPherson tape version?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe
Yeah.
I'll just stick with the McPherson tape.
Yeah, only because the McPherson tape is the original. It's the OG, right? And I just thought for the time the McPherson tape, not only was it terrifying, it was something completely different.
Mhm.
And when Incident in Lake County came, I actually saw Incident in Lake County first, and then I saw the McPherson tape after a few years later. I didn't know that Incident in Lake County was kind of a remake. I didn't know that. Both of them are very good, but the McPherson tape, it's kind of like watching the classic versus a remake of anything, right? The remake is still good. It doesn't cancel out the classic. Like, folks are still going to have their classics. The people that hate on remakes and things, the remake doesn't cancel the classic.
Yeah,
But
I've always kind of like, I mean, on one hand, it's yeah, like when you're just remaking everything and there's just sequels to everything and there's not much original content, that can be kind of annoying. But at the same time, like I never complain about a remake because you always have the original. So like whatever.
right,
If you don't like it, then turn it off and go watch the original. It's not a big deal.
right, exactly. Yeah. So that being said, Incident in Lake County, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't feel much like a remake. So if that helps any, it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, at least just to check it out on YouTube, it's definitely cool to see. It was probably the biggest inspiration for my upcoming film releasing this Friday, Lights Over Montgomery County.
Mhm.
It's that's kind of the vibe that I was going for, was that special broadcast TV special on some public access station, that's the vibe I went for with mine. And that, if I had to pick one film that inspired it, it would be Incident Lake County, if that helps anything. That's what that movie did for me. That's how that movie affected me. It was pretty inspirational, kind of like I've read some things about your inspiration being Jaws. If I remember correctly, you're kind of a Spielberg fan,
Well,
and
Jaws is like my favorite movie since I was a kid. Although sometimes I say it's Jurassic Park, sometimes it's hard to tell which one I like better. But Jaws is more like just since I was a little kid, my favorite movie. So, but in terms of inspiration specifically for the Outwaters, it's more the original Blair Witch Project, Willow Creek, which is a more recent Bigfoot found footage movie,
love that.
and
Yep.
um, stylistically some like Terrence Malick type stuff, like Tree of Life.
Okay. Yeah, I picked up on the Maliki a little bit in the Outwaters. It took me a few times to kind of pick that up, but I picked up on that.
I mean, that's just more something that's like running through me because I've always loved and watched and rewatched Malick's films, so that's just kind of like ingrained that the way the camera moves in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But it also was a conscious thing. I made my character a Terrence Malick fan Although I don't know, I don't think I talk about that. But I slipped in, like, there's a Terrence Malick book in one of the shots, barely visible, but yeah.
I think, okay, so was that like when you were in your mom's place?
No, it's just like I'm talking to my friend on the what do you call it, FaceTiming, and
Uh,
just like next to the screen, there's like in the shadows, there's a Terrence Malick book.
okay.
So that was my way of, yeah. No, I love Malick, and I thought it would be fun to have my character love Malick too.
Yeah, hey, why not? No, that's okay. So that's another Easter egg to pick up on next time I watch it, because there will be a next time. That's just how I roll. I watch movies like multiple times. So, um, as far as I know that it took you, it was a couple year long project, right?
Yeah, a
What
few
was it?
years. It didn't really take that long to shoot in terms of like the initial or the main shoots, but then I just kept going back and filming new things or redoing things that I wanted to do better. So,
Mhm.
and then editing and sound design, same thing. I would play around a lot, so it wasn't like I was sitting down every day working and it took me years. It's that I let it breathe. I let it sit. I came back to it, got feedback, came back to, you know what I mean? I just kind of let it take its own time to be done.
Okay, well, that's smart. And another nugget of advice for folks out there. I was wondering, because are you like your writing process? Do you write out like a full on screenplay before you do anything?
Not for this one.
Okay.
For me, for this one, there would be no point to like a dialogue-based screenplay. It was more of like scenes and what needed to happen in them, and shots. So a list of shots based on the story and the scenes. But I didn't really write out hardly any specific dialogue because I didn't want that. Um, Here and there would be something that I had needed said specifically, but not usually.
Okay. No, that makes sense. It feels, maybe that's why the movie felt so organic. It
Yeah.
didn't feel.
Yeah, I just wanted, I mean, I knew what needed to be talked about in certain scenes. So, like, that would be like, this needs to be discussed. But there, yeah, there's no reason to have dialogue when I wanted it to be um, naturalistic and organic and find things, you know.
Sure. Okay. So a little bit of a storyboard, but not necessarily a screenplay.
Yeah, I would say there was a screenplay without dialogue.
Okay. Okay. Um, and we talked about, Malik being kind of an inspiration for it. Um, the I didn't consider it a slow burn. I've heard people refer to it as a slow burn. Do you prefer that psychological slow burn, tension building
I do love
aspect?
that. Like I just rewatched Lizzie last night, which Chloe Sevigny and Kristen Stewart. It's like the uh, Lizzie Borden
Hmm.
movie. That one's like such a slow building thing. Mine, I don't know. I could describe it as a slow burn because something bad's happening and there's a long period of very very slightly escalating events, that so I would think of it that way, but also it can feel like a no burn and then an all burn right at once. So there's different ways to describe that. But yeah, no, I do personally love a slow burn.
Okay. That's me too. That's why I was curious, because it's the psychological slow burns. I'm a sucker for those every time. So I like the slashers and jump scares all over the place, but the slow psychological stuff I really enjoy. Tinsman Road. Is
Mhm.
there anything that you can tell us about that?
Yeah, it's found footage as well, but considering that it's found footage, I want it to look completely different, to be a completely different type of story. So I don't even think you would be able to tell that the same person made both of them. So I could say that it was shot on actual mini DV,
Oh wow.
so that's fun. So it's like the 4x3.
Mm-hmm.
aspect ratio. And I shot it in the helicopter, LA.
Yep.
I shot it in the what do you call it? Oh, in like the autumn and winter woods of northern New Jersey. So it's totally different setting, totally different story. It's a lot more character based in terms of it's a little bit more straightforward storytelling, is what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read a whole lot on that yet.
I haven't really put out hardly anything on it yet.
Okay, that's why I got basically what's on IMDb, and that's about it. I've messaged back and forth a couple of times with your mom because she's like a super sweet lady, and she's like promoting the heck out of your stuff all over. And she's super awesome. So I've spoken with her off and on about it. She's in it. She's also in the Outwaters. Is that kind of a common theme? You like to have close family and friends in your movies?
I do like to work with people I love, but also like, I don't have the resources to hire anybody, or I have not had. But at the same time, like as I continue to work on stuff, I would still like to work with people that I love as well as people I haven't met before. So but yeah,
but
my mom's in all 3 of my features. Ange is in 2 of my features. Scott's in 2 of my features. So
okay.
I like to bring people along that I like hanging out with a lot.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, you like being around the people, so why not work with them too? I think that's admirable, and I get not having resources to hire people. Like that's something I'm trying to learn, and I hope the day comes for you where you do have those resources, because you're changing the game a lot. I think that you've got some very, very unique material that not a lot of people put out. I don't want to say a lot of people, but there are some people that may not understand it. But I think you've added a very unique touch to the found footage genre, and I know I appreciate it for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. One more thing. I don't want to keep you all day. I'm sure you've got stuff going on, but I just recently actually stumbled across gay pumpkin carving tutorial.
Yes.
And it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, thanks. No, I back in the early days of YouTube, like the early days as in when it was like more of a new thing and people were starting to get like sponsored or whatever, not sponsored. There was a thing that you call it, not verified, not sponsored, but partner. When you were back in the days when you used to be able to first come a YouTube partner, I was doing a lot of like Between Two Ferns style awkward comedy, like interviews, like inappropriate, offensive stuff. So yeah, all that stuff's still up there. And the gay pumpkin carving tutorial has over the years seemed to become a staple for some people.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty hilarious. I saw that you had posted about it on Instagram or something. And I'm like, what is that? So I clicked on it, and it's absolutely hilarious. It felt genuine. Like you were like, fuck this pumpkin. I don't even want to be here making this video. So, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's my old YouTube days.
Well, you've come a long way since then, for sure, man. I appreciate the contributions you're making. I appreciate, taking all the time to speak with the little guys like me. It really means a lot that you take some time out of your day to spend with me.
I can't even pay my rent, little guys. I said I can't even pay my rent. I'm not a big guy. But what I would say is if you hated the Outwaters, give gay pumpkin carving tutorial a try. I think you'll like it.
That's some solid advice for the folks that may have hated the Outwaters.
Yeah.
I didn't hate the Outwaters, so I loved both. I love the Outwaters and gay pumpkin carving tutorial. So
yeah, well, gay pumpkin carving tutorial is pretty great. Yeah,
it is. I thought so. Anything else you want to throw out there, Robbie? Anything else you want to plug? Anything else you've got coming up you're excited about?
Yeah, the vinyl for the Outwaters soundtrack is available. There's maybe like 200 left. You get them at Enjoy the Ride Records
Enjoy.
online. The Blu-ray is available at Vinegar Syndrome's website, and Outwaters was just released on a 3-pack DVD today with 2 other Screambox originals. One was the Cube remake, and one is Creepypasta. So you can
Okay.
get Outwaters, Creepypasta, and Cube on DVD on Amazon or at Walmart, which I'm pretty excited to roll up to a Walmart and see maybe if it's actually physically there.
Right.
But it's cool because Outwaters was released on Blu-ray in the States, but it hasn't had a DVD release here, only in Australia. So I'm glad that people who don't have Blu-ray players and still like DVDs can get it now.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. Roll up on a Walmart and see your shit inside there. Like that's a step above little guy, man. You said you can't pay your rent. Like
I
you're
can't.
there. You're there.
But no,
I
but
can't do it.
I'm just excited that people who who couldn't get it, who were physical media people but that don't do Blu-ray can now have it. Also, it's one of those things like with found footage, I think diminishing the quality sometimes makes it more, or not even more effective, but like it's still effective, if not more effective, because like we did Outwaters was on VHS. It's sold out, but like I watched it on VHS, or at least some of it, and I love how it looks on VHS. So
I'll bet. Okay. So can you get it on VHS anywhere?
it's sold out right now. I think that at some point they'll do another batch.
Okay.
So obviously, if they do, I'll be posting about it.
That would be rad. I'm an 80s kid, so yeah, VHS. I would like to start collecting because I've noticed there's some things kind of making their way back into the VHS world. I looked into it. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to do it right away. I would love to, but it's kind of expensive and I can't afford it. So, but
Yeah.
I think that's a good call, man. Like the VHS, I think that would be a perfect movie to watch on VHS.
I think that like the next time a friend comes over who wants to watch Outwaters but hasn't seen it, I think I'm gonna just show them the VHS version.
That that would be dope. Yeah, do that because I think that's probably one of the better ways to watch it because it's the movie is so gritty and dirty. Like watching it on some lo-fi VHS, that would be the shit to me.
I'm excited about it.
Yes, sir. All right, Robbie. Well, again, hey, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to hang out with me. I wish I could come up with some more interview questions that are interesting and fun, but I kind of suck at podcasts still too. So,
It doesn't seem like you suck at podcasts.
well, I appreciate the vote of confidence. I'm working on it for sure. I'm working on it. You are probably the biggest name I've had on yet. So again, I appreciate that, and maybe
I'm not a name, but thank you. No, what I'll say is I recommend since it's October, if you haven't seen Lizzie, it's about the Lizzie Borden murders. Chloe Sevigny, Kristen Stewart, really some great actors. I love that movie. So it's one that's a little bit more under the radar. I could recommend to people who like a slow burn.
Okay, Lizzie, I'll be checking that out for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, man. Any other recommendations? Any other things you'd like to throw into the ethers?
Yeah, Horror in the High Desert 1 and 2.
Dutch Marriage, yes.
They're available streaming. I love those. So they really get under my skin, which is pretty rare.
Okay.
And my favorite horror movie of all time, which is the original Candyman. Always got to recommend that. Although I'm sure most people have seen that, but
okay, the original Candyman. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen that in a long time. I watched the remake and I didn't care for it, but the original is
my favorite horror movie. Yeah.
That's your favorite horror movie of all time?
Yeah, the original Candyman. It's completely poetic and beautiful, and it has a Philip Glass score, and it's moving and scary. I love that movie. That and like The Shining, obviously, and Session 9.
Okay.
So
Session 9, that's actually one that I haven't seen. There's a lot of well-known classics that I'm kind of ashamed to say that I haven't seen, but I like to watch a lot of the lesser known stuff. But I do have some favorite classics. So Session 9, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that, but the people that have say it's like one of the best.
I love stuff. It's completely great.
Okay, is it a found footage?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Found footage is kind of my number one jam. I gravitate more towards found footage, but I like all kinds of, I like the narratives, I like the slashers, I like them all.
Well, give Session 9 a try. And for people who haven't seen it, Willow Creek is a fun found footage movie that I love.
Willow Creek is great. Bobcat Goldthwait directed that movie. Really good movie. It's kind of slow to start, but it's a fantastic Bigfoot movie for sure. So.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Well, I guess I'll quit bugging you here and let you go on about your day over there in LA. Is it hot over there today?
It is. I'm going to see a double feature of The Royal Hotel, which is like a Australian looking thriller. Okay. And then after that, I'll be seeing When Evil Lurks.
Oh, okay. Double features.
All up in Glendale.
There you go.
Korea.
I haven't been there in a long time. I was actually born in California, and then I lived on the West Coast until 3 years ago. Now I'm in Texas, but I grew up in the Seattle area. Wow. So I'm familiar with the West Coast of the states.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. I really do appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me, and hopefully we can stay in touch, and I can hit you up for advice for my shitty upcoming films.
Don't be so self demeaning or whatever you call that word. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just
trying to learn every day, man. It's hard. I admire the folks that have the courage to put something out in theaters like yourself. So that's kudos. You're an inspiration. I'll tell you that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just keep making your stuff, and the joy is in doing it if you really love it. So
I do. I love it.
So yeah. Cool.
All right. Well,
8 Days in the Woods. Real fun.
What is it?
8 Days in the Woods. Don't forget to get
8 Days in the Woods. Yep. I got it here on my iPad. I put it in the notes.
All right. Cool.
All right, man. Well, thanks again for real this time. I'll let you go.
All right. Have a nice day.
You too, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.